I was feeling like this a year ago, I think, and then I forgot, and then I remembered again. So I think that the reason we get so traumatized by romantic relationships and overly sexual relationships to the point where it feels performative, like we get traumatized the most by like the people who treat us in a super sexy kind of way, and or relationships where it's super romantic, because that kind of love is so different from the kinds of love we experienced from our parents, hopefully at least one parent, when we were infants, that it feels traumatizing to us, especially as we get older. I think that, so the older you get, I work with really old people. I work with people who are bedridden. I work with people who are in their 80s and 90s sometimes, who can't walk. Well, I work with a whole bunch of different people, but some of the people I work with are in their 80s and 90s and can't walk, and they're basically infantile. I think I'm realizing that the reason why we get so traumatized by relationships that aren't parental is because something in our hindbrain is like still kind of infantile. And if we were to experience that type of love when we were infants, it would traumatize us so fucking bad. And I feel like that kind of love feels unpure. Like if you ever go on a date and you try to like dress like with your boobs out, or like you wear something really tight, or you're trying to do whatever you can to look sexy, like you're selling yourself to this man, and you want to wear lipstick, look hot and romantic, and like it's about sex or romance, or you're laughing at all his jokes, and you're talking in a high-pitched voice, and you're like telling him how strong he is. It feels gross. It feels fucking disgusting. And I think it's because that's not what love is. I think that all romance is performative, and it's a means to an end for sex or social persuasion. Because pretty people who are sexy and pretty, they get their way more often. And I think it's a control tactic. Honestly, the more sexy you are, the more effort you put into your appearance, it's so you can gain the upper hand in situations. It's not because, oh, you love looking like that. It's not. It's deeply psychological. It's all about manipulation. Literally, makeup is manipulation. You don't even look like that. But yeah, I think the reason we get so traumatized by these kinds of dynamics, or when we're trying to have this kind of dynamic with somebody else, it's because that's not love. That's not the love that we know ensures our survival. Like, I feel like you'll feel true love with people where it's not traumatizing for you when they remind you of the way a mother would treat its baby, or the way a father should, because a lot of men ain't shit even when they become fathers, the way a father should treat his child, like protection and providing. Yeah, I think we get traumatized by romantic love because it's not real. Like, if you're crying your eyes out, and we form intimacy with people through vulnerability. If you're crying your eyes out and you're so upset about something and you feel so vulnerable, if someone came up to you and started making out with you, you'd be so fucking traumatized. I feel like this is why if you were crying your eyes out and someone came up to you and said, like, you're so sexy, you're so fucking hot, you're just like, oh, your tits are so big, it would hurt. It would traumatize you even worse than whatever you were upset about, because that's not love. That's not comfort. And I feel like the reason why as we get older, we become more dependent and more infantile. And especially women are in menopause. We're not even sexually valuable anymore. I feel like this is why people would rather be with partners who take on a parental or a family-like role, and it's more like companionate love than like wanting someone who's sexy like a porn star or something. Because we came in the world and we're leaving the world. And the closer we are to either two ends of those spectrums, the more we need someone to nurture us and take care of us and protect us and provide for us. We don't need somebody fucking making out with us. I feel like this is why old people lose their teeth and you don't even want to make out with old people. Yeah, I was thinking about this because every situation with a man where I got deeply traumatized, where I was truly fucked up in my head, was because one of us or both of us was trying to be in this dynamic where it's about being sexy or like winning them over or romance or whatever the fuck people do. Also because that's inherently, it's about power. It's like, I feel like when you're being romantic with somebody or things are like super sexy, it feels like you're wearing a mask. It feels like you're in a masquerade ball or something. I don't online date, but I kind of wonder what that's like. If it just feels like you're not even meeting that person because they're wearing a mask. Also, I think when we get involved in, we want to look super sexy or we want to look very beautiful and romantic and whatever, it's because we are running from having intimacy with ourselves. Like, I notice when I'm going through something emotionally that I don't want to be going through, I start obsessing over my eyebrows. I start wanting to wear makeup again. I dye my hair all kinds of different colors. I do whatever. I either dress very sexy with my tits out or something very tight, or I start dressing very beautiful. Like, I feel like whatever I'm going through inside is so ugly and so even mundane. I'll start wanting to look like a mermaid. And I'm kind of in one of those processes right now. Like, sometimes when things are too real, I'll start wanting my fashion to be like, to compensate for it. Like right now, things at home are too real and it's revealing how fucked up my family really is and how people are fucking animals. And it's a reality that I've always known is true, but it's too real for me to live with. And I'm really realizing how pathetic people are when they get older and how pathetic people can be, like my uncle and my father and my mother. And it's too real. So I'm trying to make my room like a sanctuary. I have all kinds of posters and paintings from like the Renaissance, and all my crystals everywhere and candles everywhere and altars and just beautiful stuff, beautiful ethereal spiritual stuff around me, because the stuff that's actually going on in that house is too dumb. It's too stupid. It's too real. It shows how stupid humans really are. And it's too like obvious and tangible. So I want my room to be like this spiritual dimension. And I'm going to keep going with it too, because this is how I feel. This is where I'm at. It looks beautiful. It's beautiful and ornate, and there's so many. I've never spent so much money on my room before, and no one's allowed in it because it's just for my eyes only. But the driving factor as to why I'm doing this is because this is just fucking stupid. the shit that's going on at home is fucking stupid, and it's real, and it reflects how real a lot of people's living situations are. And also, when I'm going through some kind of phase, like, life is just so fucking dumb. Like, the way that life is going is so dumb to me. And it's just mundane, just doing the same dumb shit every fucking day. I start wanting to go all in with my artwork or my philosophy or my writing and, like, uncover these never-ending truths about the universe and, like, make this incredible music, this incredible detailed music, make albums and, like, be a star and all this stuff, because I'm also aware of how fucking dumb the day-to-day life of the average person really is. So that's what drives all this. Yeah. But I was thinking about how, I don't know how deep we really dig into this in general, but, like, I feel like as we get older, we're gonna gravitate towards relationships that feel like parental relationships, or at least sibling relationships. Whatever kind of relationship in your life feels the most dependable to you, for a lot of people, which would be some kind of family dynamic. We are probably not going to want romance. And romance is just like a sprinkle on top. It's not like the focus. We're not going to want to date porn stars or, like, fucking athletes or Greek gods or whoever we, like, go fucking crazy for when we're delusional. I feel like this is why a lot of older women stop wearing makeup. They stop dressing super sexy. It's because we start wanting people who look real. We don't want to look like celebrities and however we dress when we're younger. Honestly, when I am in phases of life where I put so much effort into my appearance and I look very sexy and I dress like I put a lot of effort into it, and with makeup and hair and blah 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 and nails and all that shit, it's because life feels so fucking boring, and I live at home and I live with my family and I'm not seeking out some kind of relationship. Because the day-to-day of life doesn't feel like I'm trying to, like, it's hard to explain it. When I dress and do the most, it's usually in a phase of life where I'm not needy. Because if I tried to wear the hoe outfits that I've worn before, or if I try to look super sexy and make sure that I'm eye fucking the camera when I take pictures, and I do my hair and do everything and really just accentuate everything about me in a super sexy way, if I tried to do that when I was actually in an emotionally vulnerable state, I'd feel so naked. And I feel like this is why when I'm going through a very truly vulnerable process, a very real process inside, where it's kind of just taking over for a while, I don't put any effort into my appearance. I don't give a fuck how I look. I don't care how much weight I gain. I don't care what my eyebrows look like. And then when I've kind of, like, mastered that, and I don't feel as like my existence is an open wound anymore, then I feel comfortable dressing in a more, like, sexualized way, or a more romanticized way, where I'm actually trying to project myself outwards as, like, beautiful or sexy or whatever. And I think it's similar with relationships. When you don't actually care about someone, you can easily be romantic. I feel like this is why it's so easy for me to seduce people who, like when I was living in Mexico and I knew I was leaving soon and I didn't care and I didn't want a relationship. I could seduce anyone. I could walk down the street and seduce somebody. It wasn't until I got an ear infection and got bedridden that the mask slipped and I started acting like my moody bitch self and didn't give a fuck how anyone viewed me. Because then I was actually truly vulnerable and I didn't want attention, so I wanted to look like a cave woman. And I wanted to scare people. It's easy for me to make music where my voice sounds the way that it sounds in my music. And it's supposed to sound beautiful. It's supposed to sound submissive and feminine and provocative. Because I'm celibate. I've been celibate for like 7 years. I'm not having sex with anyone. If I was actually having sex with someone, I would not sing like this. I would not. It would be too vulnerable. Yeah. I'm starting to think also, when you see couples together where they look super sexy together, or they're like, you think there's so much sexual tension between them and their relationship looks so romantic, they aren't even in love. They don't even know each other. And I feel like this is why infatuation and romance is usually linked. Because if you actually know somebody, the infatuation's kind of gone and you treat them differently. Like, you wouldn't go up to your mother and like tell her she's so sexy and like bite her ear and smack her ass or whatever. I feel like you would only do that to somebody who you don't even feel nurtured by. Like, if you view a man as like your father, you wouldn't go up to him and like do the kinds of shit that women do when we're like being sexual with, or flirting with somebody. You would probably keep your distance from him, first of all. It would be a totally different dynamic. And I'm starting to think that people who can't handle, as they get older, when you get older, you crave family-like relationships because it's a form of security and because you can't do a lot of things for yourself anymore. So that's what you're automatically going to start seeking out. But I feel like people who are older and they're still trying to find the sexiest woman ever, or like the hottest guy ever, and you're fucking 50 and you wanna fuck this guy who's like an athlete and he has 6-pack abs and all this shit, or you're a man and you want a woman in a bikini with big tits and heels and lip fillers and whatever. It's probably because you have a parent, like a mother or father wound, that's so deep that you can't even handle a relationship with somebody that is real, that is reminiscent of a family-like bond. And usually people I know who are like this usually have childhood experiences of either pedophilia. For me, it's extreme physical abuse and emotional neglect and spiritual torture and being punished and probably experiencing some form of pedophilia that I don't remember, but there was always pedophilic undertones. There's all kinds of shit. I feel like this is why for a lot of my life, I focus on whether I'm attracted to somebody physically, as if that's the only thing that matters. It's literally due to me trying to avoid trauma and trying to avoid a real bond that would remind me of how dependent I am. Like when we want people who look like sex symbols, it's because we're trying to avoid our own vulnerability. We're trying to avoid the wound that our mother or father left on us. But it's different than the kind of wound that romantic and super sexually charged relationships will leave on you. I feel like the bond that you have with somebody where it feels more companion-like, it's going to bring up so much trauma that already exists in you that it will feel like those relationships are scary, or that person is the one who's hurting you. But really, they just bring up so much trauma that it creates a safe space. The more secure a relationship is, the more safe you're going to feel automatically. So therefore, the more of your past you're going to be able to process. The more trauma is going to come up for you. And if we're just unaware of this, then even if a relationship is very safe, we'll think it's the most dangerous one we could possibly have. Because it's bringing up so much stuff in us that already exists. So we'll find some kind of short-term gratification and safety by being with somebody who's like super hot, or lusting after a celebrity who's super hot, and pretending we're dating them, or just anything we have to do. Because when it comes to trauma and how psychologically complex humans are, we can be very creative, and we will do anything, no matter how insane it is, to avoid pain. Basically, even if we're always in pain, we'll try to avoid feeling it. This is why people are alcoholics. But yeah, if we can't handle how much pain and how much healing and how much transmutation will happen in a truly safe relationship, we will think those are the most dangerous people ever, the most unattractive people ever. I would never be with somebody like that, because we just want to avoid safety, because we want to avoid basically getting undressed. So we want to go be with somebody who we want to fill our lives with short-term flings and the chase and infatuation, which is always going to fade, where there's no real intimacy and never really knowing somebody, because we don't want to process our past and the pain and our mother and father wound. And I feel like this gets very apparent as you get older. Like sometimes I don't really believe, I want to say I don't believe in marriage, because I saw what a fucking train wreck marriage is for everyone in the older generation that I've ever met, especially my parents. So I say that because I want to avoid marriage. But not even everyone wants to get married. But I feel like as you get older, you see it becomes a lot more clearer who is able to like process their childhood and have a real relationship with people and all that, and who is running from it with all their might. And I feel like this is why you see men have midlife crises, and suddenly they want to buy a sports car, and they want to have 10 models with bleach blonde hair and fake tits in the back seat shaking their ass, and they want to download a dating app and date the hottest bitch they can find. Or a woman will want to fuck some guy 20 years younger than her, or she'll do something crazy sexually just to avoid whatever is coming up at that phase of life regarding their mother or father wound. I feel like this is why older people will cheat in the most astounding ways. I feel like when people who are younger cheat, it's predictable. But I feel like sometimes when older people have midlife crises, they'll cheat in the most shocking, insane ways possible. And yeah, like they'll fly out to fucking Brazil and I feel like we process different parts of our like father wound or our mother wound or whatever we're going through when we're truly vulnerable. I feel like we process different parts of it at different ages, because you can't handle the magnitude of the impact that your parents had on you all at once. Because it's like, it feels like everything. It's like, it's too much. So I feel like we process different things at different different phases of life. Yeah. But I guarantee you, if one of those 60-year-old men like Hugh Hefner, if one of those blonde looking women suddenly truly cared about him and truly nurtured him and truly provided a safe connection with him, he would have kicked her out of the Playboy bunny house, because that's not what you're there for. He probably had a very deep mother wound. Same with all these. Well, I use celebrities as an example because they're the ones who are like the most easy to research and like study, because they're in the spotlight all the time. You see these models have like, or like these celebrities, they'll be like 50, 60 years old, and they'll be dating these 25-year-old athletes, and they'll be cougars and all kinds of shit. Yeah, and it doesn't surprise me that a lot of celebrities who clearly have very deep mother or father wounds, it's all interconnected. There's like studies on this, that kids who are neglected by their families or neglected by their parents, when we don't get enough attention from our parents, or our parents traumatize us, it seems like automatic. We usually develop some kind of desire to be famous. I know I did. I used to want to be famous so bad when I was a kid, because my father fucking abused me and then ignored me and then told me he like wanted me to die when I was a kid. And my mother was always at work, and there's shit at home was the way it was. I wanted to be famous. I wanted to be a famous singer. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a model. I wanted to like be like all these celebrities, and I wanted everyone to give me attention. I wanted to be like whoever, whatever was popular. Like, and now I see celebrities. I have a degree in psychology. Degree doesn't really mean shit, because I researched most of it on my own. I know a lot of this stuff because of my own life experience. A lot of celebrities have like really deep mother and father wounds, and that's why they even gravitated towards wanting to be famous in the first place. So now they're famous, and they're making all these songs about romance and lust, and these rappers, it's all about fucking bitches, or like for women sucking dick or whatever, or getting fucked all the time and looking like porn stars, or trying to look like Disney characters or whatever it is. And then if you actually look at these people as people, they have very deep unresolved mother and father wounds, and they're serial daters. They can never hold a relationship. They're always changing partners. There's just a lot. I need to get my brakes fixed. I was driving around. I had a client down in the city today. They have fucking cobblestone. I was driving down a fucking cobblestone road, and there's potholes everywhere. I swear it fucked up my brakes. But yeah, and then we, like average people, this is our media. The music we listen to, the movies we watch, it's all romance. It's all a story. It's all, or if we're listening to music like rap music, it's all about sex and being sexy and like fucking bitches, and like it's basically porn. And this is all being given to us by people who are deeply traumatized, but the lifestyle of it and the appeal of like the rich and famous life kind of hides it a lot of the times, and we don't see celebrities as people, and we don't realize like what it really is. Yeah. I kind of think this is why celebrities, when they get older and they actually, like, they're done with that lifestyle, you don't really see a lot of celebrities who are actually healed in the spotlight anymore. Like, they don't want that anymore. But yeah, this is the influence that we have on us all the time from the media and from entertainment. And so then sometimes we get this idea in our heads that this is what love is. It's romance and sex and basically porn and like this Hollywood version of it that is there. And then we try to act that out in real life and we get fucked up in our heads, basically. We get fucked up over it because it's not real love and it's traumatizing and it's not what we're truly seeking. And it's not what's really going to last. I feel like a lot of romance, like the pretty stuff, like flowers and dressing pretty, if we do that, it's because we just like beauty, because it's about aesthetic, it's because it's visually pleasing. But all the romance, and because people like chocolate, like, but all the romance and stuff and the when you bring the actual energy frequency of romance into the equation, it feels either gross and unreal, or it just feels very manipulative, because it is a manipulation tactic. Even when it comes to sex. I don't want to talk a whole lot about that. But like, I know that I had to act like a porn star. Do all kinds of shit that I didn't want to do, and basically feel exploited and raped. And it's because the guy I was with was addicted to porn and has extreme mother issues and has to go from woman to woman and try to do whatever. And so that wasn't real love. And that's why it was so fucked up, because it was about that. It wasn't even a real relationship. It felt like a pretend, but people do this when you have a really deep mother and father wounds, and your mother and father is like, even their presence is looming over your head, and they make you feel very violated. They're like, they've done something, they've traumatized you in some way. This is what drives people to become hoes, and this is what drives people to become serial daters. The only people I ever met in my life who are massive hoes are people who have extreme parental trauma, and their parent is like pedophilic or sexually imposing on them or sexually controlling. Like, you know how weird parent-child relationships can get. So they can't develop sexually, and you have sexuality. Everyone has sexuality, especially when you're younger and it's developing and like it's at a peak when you're young. People, if they have a lustful parent, or they have a perverted parent, or a parent who doesn't have good sexual boundaries in some way, and they've traumatized the child has to express and experience their sexuality. They can't just like shove it in their pants and end of story. That's not how it works. So I feel like these people, they can't handle the trauma, the mother or the father wound they have at the time. And they can't just act like they aren't sexual creatures. So they become like, they want the most sexualized romantic relationships ever. It's usually some kind of like masochistic. I met some people who are into BDSM who are like this, the most dehumanizing kinds of relationships. And they have to express their sexuality in some way, and then they want to like project the mommy daddy role onto the partners who they're engaging in these dehumanizing sexual acts with, because they don't want their parents' presence looming over them like that, and they don't want to accidentally engage in some kind of sexual connection with their parent, or give in to like the sexual pressure the parents putting on them, or like It's complex. I experienced something like this because my father's a fucking pervert, and I know my sister probably did too. And it's common. A lot of my friends experience stuff like this. Even men. If your parent looks at you in a sexual way, it's going to fuck with you so bad. It's going to like almost force you to go take that sexual energy or your sexuality and bind it to somebody else. But the relationship can't be too safe. Otherwise, you'll start processing your parent wound. And if your parent's still right up in your fucking energy field, you can't do it. It's too close for comfort. I feel like this is why people have hoe phases, and then after their parent dies and is gone, or you feel like, or you move far away from them, or just whatever it is that makes you feel like your parent is more absent and they're gone out of your energy and out of your life, and you're not like obsessing over your safety. This is when people who were former hoes can settle down and have some kind of safe, real relationship. But I feel like this is the reason why a lot of people become hoes. And I'm not exempt. I was starting to go down that path. I could start doing it again. I'm starting to not even use the word hoe as a bad thing. I'd actually like to reclaim the word, because there's a lot of trauma and very real stuff that goes along with it. But I feel like we get so hurt by quote unquote hoes, or we get so hurt by relationships where we act like a hoe, where the relationship is just super sexual, or we get hurt by relationships that are too fairy tale like they're too romantic, because that's not real love, and we are seeking that love out in the first place because we're scared of intimacy, because our parent has traumatized us in some way that we're either too young or too close with the parent to really process. So we want to escape by having connections that are just about sex in the most sexualized way possible, sex in the most dirty, dehumanizing, perverted way possible. Or we want just the romance and the flowers and acting like we're in a princess in a carriage, or like we're a fucking Greek goddess or something. I still do that. Yeah, I feel like this is, well, there's probably many other reasons why people experience sexuality the way that they do, but this is one of the ones that I find is very common. And I think about how hard this is for men. If your mother was fucking with your sexuality in some way, or fucking with how you relate to women, or her nurturing always came with some kind of abuse or manipulation, it's going to be very hard to have a real relationship. I feel like people who watch hentai have the most deep parent wound possible, because now you have to watch a fucking cartoon. You can't even watch a real person be dehumanized. Like, you have to watch a fucking anime character. I need to get my brakes fixed. Yeah. And I feel like for a lot of people, it's not even going to be until your parents are dead, or until you're like 50 or 60, or until whenever you feel the most disconnected from your parents, like they're not hovering over you anymore, or they're not going to infiltrate however they do, or invade your privacy, or invade your boundaries. That's going to be when you can maybe have a real connection or a real relationship with someone, where it doesn't become like clownish or dehumanizing. Yep. I know that I have It's complicated. I remember when I was 5 years old, I was at the grocery store with my father, and he said something to me that I don't remember, but the end of his sentence was, "People are going to think you're my girlfriend." And I remember when we would go to restaurants at family dinners, he would bite me and my sister's ear, and he was a pervert. He's still a fucking pervert. I think my female friends, my neighbors, when I was a little kid, I had little girls who were my age, who were my neighbors, and they would come to my house once and they would never come back again because he was so fucking creepy, because he's a fucking pedophile. And I think they knew it. But growing up in that environment, I don't really notice it until hindsight, but it's obvious now. So I go through phases. Sometimes I feel very disconnected from my father and I can have real connections with men, but sometimes he is too much in my energy field, because he doesn't want us to have boundaries, because he's a fucking predator, and he always has been. He doesn't want us to have boundaries. He wants to be able to psychically intimidate me, and when he's really fucking with my energy, I can't have a real relationship with men. I will start dehumanizing them. I will start turning it into like a master-slave dynamic, or like treating them like they're a cartoon character, or just treating them like they're not a person, or I need things to be super romantic. I need to be treated like a goddess. He needs to be a god. He needs to try to look like a god. Like, it needs to be perfect. He needs to be 8 feet tall. He needs to have a 12-foot dick. Otherwise, I won't even hear about it. I won't look twice at you. And that's really how I am. But it's because my father's a predator. And my father wound doesn't feel safe to like process. It doesn't feel safe for me to be real. So I kind of like tap out. And that's kind of why I do it. But I'm starting to I get it. I get it why people are fucked up. To put it briefly. Why people's sexuality is very deviant. Why the way they handle relationships is fucked up. I do understand it now. It's the same with people's mothers. I know I've seen a pattern with a few women where the mother is a hoe because she has a father wound and she's out. She has 12 boyfriends every fucking year. She's sucking dick all the time. She's a hoe. And her child, by default, will become asexual. And the child just wants to be on their iPad all day, and the child just wants to be exempt from sexuality because I see this with mothers and sons. But I'm sure it takes on all different forms. Yeah. I need my brakes fixed. There's 12 different things I need done with my car. Yep.